Well, good morning, everybody, and a very warm welcome to the National Memorial Arboretum. Quick show of hands, who's been here before? Excellent. Quick show of hands, whose first visit? I think that's about half and half. So a very warm welcome to those of you that have been before, and welcome back. No, other way around. Welcome back to those of you who've been before, and a very warm welcome to those of you who are here for the first time. So the National Memorial Arboretum, we are a relatively young park. We were open to the public in 2001. Our first trees were planted back in 1998. We're actually on a disused quarry. So gravel extraction was taking place here until the mid-90s. The Arboretum was founded by a retired naval commander, David Childs. He went to Arlington Cemetery over in Washington, D.C., and in his words, inspired by that, he thought that here in the UK, we were forgetting how to remember. So he came back and he wanted to create somewhere where we could remember the service and the sacrifice of those that have served the Crown. So he searched the length and breadth of the country and to find a suitable site. And Tarmac were just finishing quarrying here, and they offered the site to him on a 999-year lease at a peppercorn rent of £1 a year that they promised they'd never come and collect. I'm not saying our volunteers are cynical, but most of them carry £1 in their pocket just in case the man from Tarmac comes knocking on the door. So we started then to create an arboretum here. You will know better than I that reclaimed land that floods on a fairly regular basis is probably not the best place to try and grow lots of trees. But despite that, there's around 25,000 out in the ground. So the Arboretum has grown since then. We also have 422 memorials, about 8 or 9 new ones dedicated every year. So Andy, our head of estates, does keep me up to date with the current number. 422 memorials. The first one you've all seen already, the wooden polar bear just by the bar in this building, was the very first one, dedicated in 1998. And if you're wondering why a polar bear, there is a little interpretation panel just inside the building that will tell you why that's there. So the memorials have grown, the site has developed. We're just at a point now where we're becoming what David, our founder, always wanted, which was a woodland in which you find memorials. Up until 5 or 6 years ago, you'd look across the site and you'd see memorials with smaller trees. The trees are now beginning to dominate the landscape, which was always the vision. The one people most often associate with us is the Armed Forces Memorial, the large mound just over there behind that wall that you can't see through, which is the UK's permanent memorial to our armed forces. Please do go up and have a look at it. On the walls there you'll find inscribed the names of the 16,000 members of our armed forces who've lost their lives in service training or through acts of terrorism since the end of the Second World War. It's very moving, it's very evocative, it means an awful lot to people. I think what a lot of people are really struck by when they go up there is the blank walls, which is where names will be added, hopefully over very, very many years to come. Hopefully those walls won't fill up too quickly. So it's easy when I talk like that to imagine this is a place that is sombre and is sad, and at times it is, but more often than not it's actually a place of joy. It's uplifting. We have 250 volunteers who do a fantastic job of telling the stories behind the memorials. If we don't tell those stories, they're just dods of rock, steel, glass in a woodland. When we tell those stories, that's why the memorials matter. That's when we remember. And those stories cover heroism and triumph, as well as tragedy and loss. And our volunteers as well, many of them spent their own lives in service in the armed forces, in the police, in other organisations. They're very happy to tell some amazing stories from their own service. They're brilliant stories. Sometimes wonder if all of them are completely grounded in truth, and they certainly get better with each telling. So if you see any of our colleagues in the green polo shirts and jumpers, have a chat with them. What they don't know about the memorials isn't worth knowing. So we've developed through the years. We are proudly part of the Royal British Legion. So whilst we're a small independent charity, we are part of a bigger organisation as well. And we play a really important part in helping the Legion to carry out one of its core pillars, which is making sure that remembrance is something that lives on in the country. And that brings us to sort of our strategic aims, really. There's three things which strategically we focus on. The first is remembrance, keeping those stories of remembrance alive. And we really do want to make sure that remembrance is for all. There is the traditional remembrance which takes place around the country, particularly on November the 11th, and we have our Armistice Day service here, we have a Remembrance Sunday service here, which will feature standards and blazers and the 2-minute silence and all the things that we associate with remembrance. But of course that doesn't speak to everybody, and we're also very keen to learn how different communities remember, learn how different cultures think about remembrance, and make sure that we capture that. Something we realised during the pandemic, and Liz, I'm sure starting the 4 and 5 years ago, just as the country went into lockdown, was an interesting journey. But something you may well remember, every Thursday we all went out onto the streets and we grabbed pots and pans and we banged and we clapped and we cheered for the NHS. That was an act of thanks and an act of remembrance. It wasn't 2-minute silence, it was as noisy as we could make it for those few moments on a Thursday when we dared to venture to the end of our own driveways. So remembrance is developing and changing all the time, and that's something that we are helping to deliver here. We're also, another strategic aim of ours is based around sustainability. We are 150 acres of young woodland. Extreme weather events cause us all sorts of headaches. We flood more frequently, we get more droughts, we get more heat damage. So we feel we're at the sharp end of that. Some research that was done a few years ago tells all of us that for visitor attraction visiting people, so our audience, the person they most trust about matters of sustainability and the environment is, of course, David Attenborough. Why wouldn't it be? But very next after that are the people that run parks and gardens, people like the National Trust, people like the RHS, therefore people like ourselves in this room. So understanding that people trust us and believe us, we really feel that we have a powerful voice and that we need to advocate for sustainability. So we've done a lot more talking about our own sustainability work, everything from growing our own herbs on site for our kitchens, to composting more of our own things, to larger infrastructure projects, solar panels on the roof, all those sort of items are things that we are doing. And thirdly, our last pledge, our last strategic aim is around diversity and inclusion. So coming back to that piece about remembrance for all, we want the site to be freely open to all, welcome to everybody. And we've done a lot of work over the last few years on working with different communities, both regionally and nationally. We had a fabulous carnival for Windrush when we were celebrating Windrush 75. We've worked with lots of South Asian artists and communities from Birmingham. We've worked with international groups. We've worked with vulnerable adults. We've worked with young people trying to find their own way in the world, and some of whom face some quite incredible challenges. So really making sure that our community engagement, our work, our doors are open to as many people as possible, so that we can talk about reflection, we can talk about remembrance, and for some of these groups, actually bringing them to a large open space is something that perhaps they've not had the opportunity before. We've run some school trips using coach bursaries where we've brought children from inner cities, and it's not too much of a stretch to say the first school trip they have ever been on has been to here. It is probably the first time that they have spent quality time in an outdoor space, so understanding the health and well-being activities there. And as I said, we do like to celebrate lives lived as well as commemorate lives lost in service and sacrifice. That's always been part of our remit. So we do like people to come along here and have a really, really good time. And a great example of that is in December, just before Christmas every year, we run our illuminated Arboretum, a chance to literally see the Arboretum in a different light, and a chance for people to go on a trail around the site, beautifully lit, with some moments of joy and fun and laughter, but also some moments of reflection where we will touch back on some of the remembrance themes from the year. So this year's Illuminated Arboretum will reference D-Day 80, which we commemorated in the summer, as well as giving you the chance to play with lots of light installations, shine searchlights in the sky, step on stepping stones that light up in different colours. So a lot of fun for the whole family. That has to be seen to be believed. Tickets are available from the welcome desk. So I'm going to finish with a shameless plug and say, do come along and see us at Illuminated Arboretum. But much more importantly, I was really inspired by what Liz was saying earlier about why you're here. You clearly have some great challenges ahead of you. We all do. But by coming together and networking and sharing those ideas, that will give you the best chance of success. And I hope you'll find this to be an inspirational place to do so. Thank you very much.
Thank you.